Professor Sheffield, is there any new history to be written about World War I?
Yeah, very definitely there is. The more I look at the subject, the more I realise actually how little I know about big chunks of it. And the last few years of the centenary of the Great War has seen some excellent new work coming out. So, for example, we now know a lot more than we did a few years ago about a whole series of local studies across Britain and many other countries as well. The Eastern Front, at long last, is getting the attention, at least in English, which it has long lacked, but has deserved. So there's an awful lot of stuff to be done. And of course, we have people revisiting old ideas and old controversies. So, for example, the idea of the lines led by donkeys approach, that is, of the leadership of the British Army in the First World War, remains a very, very fiercely contested area. So yes, there's an awful lot we could still write about the First World War, plenty more to research that we simply don't know very much about.
What were Britain's strategic goals when it entered the war?
When Britain entered the war in August 1914, its primary strategic goal was, I think, to remove Germany from Belgium. Belgium was seen as being the outer defences of Britain, and absolutely an area of critical importance to the British. So just like in 1793, when Britain had gone to war against revolutionary France to prevent this area falling into enemy hands, it went to war in 1914 against Germany. More generally, there was a belief that the balance of power had to be upheld, and particularly there was seen the great need to support France. If France had been defeated, the British would have suffered very, very badly. And then as the war went on, British war aims evolved, in part because Britain was an imperial power and was seeking to both protect and extend its empire. But in the end, the Germans were expelled from Belgium, and so in that sense, a major British war aim was achieved. Ultimately, I think it was about denying Germany a victory which allowed it to dominate Europe. In retrospect, we can see that it succeeded only for a relatively short period of time. It took another major war before German power was finally destroyed.
Do arms races always lead to conflict?
There's an assumption that arms races do lead to conflict, but I think the evidence for that is rather dubious. There's at least two major arms races that I can think of: the Anglo-French arms race in the second half of the 19th century, and of course the American-Soviet nuclear arms race from the 1960s onwards, which of course did not end in war. So I'm rather dubious about this idea that arms races do bring about war. Now, of course, they can contribute to an atmosphere in which war becomes more likely, but ultimately it's decisions that are actually made by political and military elites that cause wars, not by somewhat abstract trends like an arms race.